Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because there's a lot of misconception around desire. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that everyone is just walking around spontaneously horny. So everyone is just like, boom, horny in a second, right? And the reality is that that's fundamentally not true. And a researcher by the name of Emily Naski really kind of hits this home. And so a lot of the language I'm about to use is attributed to her and her research. So there's different types of desire. We have spontaneous and we have responsive. Okay. Spontaneous desire is that. It's like a flip of a switch that you are just all of a sudden kind of feeling that maybe arousal response in your body, which is triggering a desire response, which is triggering you wanting to have sex. Responsive desire happens within context. So most people actually fall into a responsive desire category, which is, I am not walking around horny. I am not wanting to have sex all the time. But if you approach me and you do things that I like, I might get into it.
That could be anything from a scent, a conversation, situational. So it's completely situational at that point.
Right.
It brought it on. Like we weren't looking for it. It just kind of, oh, now I'm intrigued. Yeah. And I'm listening with different parts of my body.
Yeah. Yes, okay. And I explain it to clients like, what I find interesting is that we have arousal and we have desire. So arousal is your physiological response, right? That's heart rate increasing, that's getting an erection, that's cervix moving up and out of the way for penetration, like all of these, lubrication, all that fun stuff. Desire is your psychological experience of horniness, or your
is that
I
the
want
clinical
to.
word?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, absolutely. Look it up. So we often...
From the Latin word to horn.
Yes. So we think that desire is supposed to precede arousal. We think we're supposed to want it before we experience it. But if you look at any other kind of physiological experience, most of the time we feel it in our bodies before we perceive it or interpret it through our brains. And yet with sex, for some reason, we think our brain has to be the first one to tell us that we want something. And the example I use is, you touch a hot stove.
Wow, that's exactly where my mind was. I was trying to figure out how to turn that into this.
Yeah, so you touch a hot stove, your body feels the pain first before your brain has the opportunity to be like, ow, that hurt. Yeah. Right? And arousal and desire can work in the same way. And for a lot of people, they do. For a lot of people, you need to feel arousal first before you experience desire.
This might be a difference in genders, because I'm sure every woman would agree that most guys aren't using their brain anyways.
Well, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know the research on that one. I might have to look into it. But
okay. Yeah.
So then...
There's no research done on male brain activity. It's like one of those, ECGs that they hook you up to in the hospital. Occasionally you get a blip, and that was by accident. That was just machine malfunction.
Oh my gosh. So we have these different types of desire. Now, what the research has shown is that there are differences between males and females. So females tend to be much more responsive desire-based, and males tend to be more spontaneous desire-based. And the mechanisms, I think, at work with that are very much linked to, and I'll use an example of like an automatic versus a manual transmission. So an automatic transmission, you put your foot on the gas, the car goes. Take your foot off the gas, the car still goes. You have to actively pump the brakes to get the car to stop. Okay. Right? That's a male. Okay.
See, and I would have thought the other way, but all right, we'll leave it at that.
That's a male. And the reason that's male is because it's a pretty self-contained feedback loop in so much as nothing is interrupting it. Right? So there's no, oil leak somewhere. There's nothing happening. It's self-contained. It's working.
Okay.
Women tend to be more of a manual transmission. So stop smiling like that. Stop. Tend to be more.
We're about to get canceled. I can feel that in my brain. All right, so you need to be forced into gear. All right.
No.
Grind a little bit.
Yes. Okay. But not in the way you just said it. So, for second gear, maybe a little bit of grinding, maybe a little bit of Not really sure if we want this yet.
Okay.
Third, fourth gear, we're getting into it. We're getting excited. You know, we're feeling all that arousal. We're feeling that desire. Fifth, sixth, amazing, wonderful, loving it. But at any point in time, you can throw a manual car into neutral or park and your experience is over. Get off the ride.
There we go.
So women are much more psychologically, narratively, thematically based in their experience of desire. That is a lot harder to maintain and contain in a feedback loop from disruption and interruption from other spaces. So even as, and I'll use a classic example that I hear where it's like, you know, you're trying to have this sexual experience with a partner and you're sitting there and you're like, fuck, did I do the laundry? Oh my God,